Perhaps not as anticipated as the Wizz Air A320 we reviewed in our last video, but it's not far off. The 777 of DHL has been asked for by collectors for years, and now in 2023 Herpa finally delivers. But how have they done? Well, we will find out thanks to the great prices of the FMB shop. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at a Boeing 777-200F of DHL. At the front of the box we have a cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of the box we have the DHL branding. Then we have the back side of the box, and I mean, what can we say about it? Apart from looking dreadful, it's cheap, it doesn't protect my aircraft model, and Herpa really does need to change their box design. And here she is, the Boeing 777-200F in the current standard livery of DHL. Now, collectors have been for years seeing one DHL 757 and 767 after the other being released, but never the 777, and they have been asking Herpa for years and years and years, and now in 2023 we finally have it. So how has Herpa managed to do with this aircraft model? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's simply by taking a closer look at it. And as always, we start our tour around the aircraft model with a look at the tail section. Now here we have the DHL branding. On the fuselage, we then find the full registration code of the aircraft, the flag of Germany, as well as the aircraft type specification. Now, the 777F, of course, being a freighter, has its main cargo hatch here at the back of the aircraft as well, which we can see here. And then, of course, we also have a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. Now, on top of the fuselage, Herpa has added a set dome, and given that the real aircraft does have that as well, it is correct. However, the size is not quite right. In fact, it is a bit oversized. It's not as bad as with other recent Herpa Wings releases, so given that the size discrepancy isn't quite as big, I'd say it is still within reasonable margins, but of course it would have been nicer just to have it correctly sized in the first place. Now, if we move to the front of the aircraft, we can see here across the fuselage the writing of DHL. Underneath that we have a few static ports, which is always a nice addition, especially to these freighters that don't come with many other details themselves. Next to the cabin door, we can then see it says operated by Aerologic, which is a joint venture between DHL and Lufthansa Cargo, and that is operating the 777 for DHL. The cockpit section itself is unfortunately rather bare-boned, apart from the details, of course, coming from the livery itself. Well, we have the cockpit windows, but not even the window wipers, so that is really disappointing. And it's really not that much that they would have needed to add to really fully recreate the real thing. Just add a few pedal tubes there and then the window wipers, and there you go. But how about the engines? Well, the engine nacelles have been kept in all grey, have the silver leading edge and the safety markings printed on, so that's quite nice. When it comes to the physical detailing, well, Herpa always suffers with their 777 engines being a bit too squeezed. It's not just for this aircraft model, but for all their 777s. But other than that, the physical detailing I think is actually quite nice. Also here, when we look into the front, we can very nicely see the engine fan blades. From the engines, we can move on to the wings, which we should also take a closer look at, starting off with the top side, where we have the different flaps, slats and spoilers carved out very nicely. And on the underside of the wing we can find some more nice physical detailing. Then we can take a look at the landing gear, which is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all their 777 aircraft models. Although I did find the main landing gear to feel a little bit more flimsical, a little bit more fragile than I had in memory, but I will go into that a little bit more later in the video, so stick around. The front landing gear I think looks perfectly fine, except for the missing printed details. Then on the belly of the aircraft we do have a hole in the fuselage for a stand, which is not included with this aircraft model, making it rather pointless, but at least it doesn't destroy any printed details. And then last but not least, we do also have the remaining doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft, and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Boeing 777-200F in the current standard livery of DHL in scale 1 to 500 from Herpa Wings. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Now, let me start off by saying that I think it is really nice that Herpa has actually managed to create the 777 DHL for collectors in scale 500. And I think actually overall this year they have had quite a good run in finally releasing some models that collectors have asked for many years. So definitely not the worst year Herpa has had so far. But when we talk specifically about this aircraft model, I think overall they have done quite well. Yes, we do have the weakness with the squeezed engines. That's typical for Herpa's 777 models, and there could of course still be a few more printed details, but overall I think they have done quite well with this aircraft model. I'm personally actually quite satisfied with it. There was one thing, however, I noticed when I checked the main landing gear. For me, it felt quite flimsical, more fragile than I had in memory. So I thought, why not check out a previous 777 from Herpa Wings, in this case an Aerologic 777, just to be sure that it is actually just something I'm making up in my mind and not actually something real. And I am happy to say that the main landing gear on the other 777 that I checked was pretty much the same. It was maybe marginally more stiff, but definitely within normal margins, so I don't think they've changed anything here. But I did, however, notice that the front landing gear did have a printed detail, and I think it's a shame that we didn't get this time around, because it's these small details that do elevate an aircraft model. But in conclusion, collectors have been waiting for this aircraft model for many, many years, and honestly speaking, I think in this case, it was worth the wait. Sure, there are still things where Herpa can improve, but for their current standard, I think this is a pretty good model. And yeah, therefore I would say it is definitely worth having in one's collection. Now with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching, hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.